Thank you, Tom. Thanks, everyone. As Tom said, my name is Lisa Oldfield, and I'm from DocuSign. We're the leader in electronic signatures and digital transaction management worldwide. And we're hugely excited to be sponsoring Ben here at Amplify today. From a DocuSign perspective, Ben's transformative work helping companies embrace new technologies to drive business productivity aligns very much with DocuSign's DNA. For thousands of years, human beings have indicated their consent with a pen and parchment. And in the 21st century, we're still buying our homes, enrolling our kids in school, and signing our employment contracts in a way that's not secure, is cumbersome, and requires someone to scan and rekey all that information. The American business writer Tom Peters once said, "I believe there is one source of innovation, and that's pissed off people." And I've been one of those pissed off people where I missed buying my dream home because my bank didn't process my loan in time. My kid missed out on going on a school excursion because his permission slip was in his school bag with a half-eaten sandwich. And I was caught out clandestinely hovering over the work fax as I tried to send my employment contract over to my new employer. Fortunately, thousands of Australian companies have seen the light and have embraced DocuSign. Now all these documents can be signed anytime, anywhere, and on any device. Ben, at Box, you changed the way we securely share large volumes of critical information. At Yahoo, you're revolutionising the way we enact online. And most importantly, at Hostess, you saved the cream-filled cake, golden goodness of the Twinkie for all us fatties to enjoy. So Ben, from a DocuSign perspective, we're grateful that you continue to challenge the status quo and change the world with new technology. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Ben Haines, a true technology evangelist, and he will be DocuSigning autographs after the session. Thanks very much, Ben.
Wow, thanks. Cool. Hi, everyone. Great to be here. Yes, I'm from Yahoo, but I'm actually not American. I grew up in South Australia, so I follow AFL, not rugby. Go Swans. I actually lived in Sydney for a while and became a Swans fan. So the topic I'm talking about today is actually, quite difficult. I didn't want to go into a really big, IT, geeky architecture and bore everyone. I'm guessing we've got a good split here between business and IT people. So I want to walk you through what I'm seeing, what I've seen in the different industries I've worked in, what's really happening today and what we've implemented, and where things have to go. And hopefully you'll come out of this convinced we need to move, we need to change. So across my career, I've had, I guess, 3 major industries. Worked in hospitality here, Hyatt Hotels. I worked in CPG goods, which here it's FMCG. So with Red Bull, 9 years globally. Worked for a beer company, and most Australians wouldn't know. It's called PBR. It's an iconic beer in America. It's quite amazing. And had a little stint bringing back Twinkies. And so, a good, I guess, 15 pounds, no, actually 15 kilos later, working with all that sugar and beer and everything, then went into the tech industry and got the call up from Box. So thanks for the compliment. I didn't build Box. I helped everyone that did. And really fascinating working for a startup. And now I'm at Yahoo, which is the biggest startup in the world. So it's pretty amazing to see the differences. What I found really interesting across all these industries is, so mid-2000s, I was the IT guy that IT didn't like. I was actually helping the business go around IT to get things done. Wore out my welcome. I guess it took 9 years, but finally wore out my welcome with that. Then I got the call up into Pabst, and it was actually the business that called me. Someone I'd worked with at Red Bull had just taken over sales, couldn't get anything done, so it literally said, "Ben, look, we need you to come and help reboot IT." So off I went, and Pabst is a 160-year-old company, so I think some of the technology was at least that old, and it was quite an amazing journey. It was private equity owned. That was my first venture into private equity. Deep pockets, short arms. I mean, it really gives you an appreciation for a dollar and makes you work and do things innovatively. And then, obviously, startup world, we're pre-IPO with Box. Another different, fascinating journey, and now I'm at Yahoo. So let's walk through this. This is, everyone know Jeff Bezos, Amazon. So anything that can be made digital will be. You know, and I think this quote was probably last year, year before, but it really is fascinating where things are going, right? And it's true, there's just so much disruption in the digital world. In contrast, Blockbuster. Blockbuster made it to Australia, right? Yeah, and then it's gone. So the CEO of Blockbuster at the time couldn't really understand this fascination with Netflix. You know, they're not doing anything different to what we are. I think at that time they just posted a $1.6 billion loss in Blockbuster, and Netflix had just recorded their first ever profit, like $6 million or something, and he couldn't understand what was going on. So they basically ended up dead and absolutely annihilated by Netflix. And also we had Borders in America as well, and I think they were here as well. They just missed it. You know, they were looking at innovation for them was category management. You know, what books do we put on our shelves and where do we put them on the store? That was their big investment. Meanwhile, they'd outsourced their e-commerce to Amazon, funny enough, and you know, they just completely missed this digital transformation. It's quite fascinating. So this next generation of company is here. It's happening now, right? So Netflix is there. The interesting thing about Netflix, they were in the identical business to Blockbuster, right? They you know, changed the model a bit and wanted to ship to you and ship it back, but ultimately they were shipping around DVDs. They weren't really innovating that much. Then they made the complete jump into the digital world, and that was ultimately the end of Blockbuster. You've got companies like Airbnb. They have 500,000 room nights a night. Like, that's just fascinating. Every hotel company in the world would kill for that. They have zero capital costs. They have zero inventory of rooms. Like, they're not having to invest mountains of capital to make this happen. It's all done with technology, word of mouth, customers, the whole reference network. Uber, similar. You know, they have no inventory. They're not buying cars. They're producing technology. They're creating a network of people. And we're referencing people in, using the app wherever you go. They've raised, I think it's about $2 billion now. They're valued at $40 billion globally. Sorry, $40 billion valuation. And most of their money is building the technology, but it's also there to fight the lawsuits. Like, it's that disruptive. Almost every industry, every country, state, whatever they're going into, they're having to change regulations to make it happen. It's really quite fascinating. Tesla. You know, Tesla is a technology company. They happen to build a car, but now they're an energy company. They're actually making batteries you can put in your house, you know, getting the solar power. So they're actually they're going to be impacting the big utility companies at some point in time. This is where the disruption's coming from. And I think it was 2 years ago, if you think about Google, they bought Nest. So someone at Honeywell woke up one day and they're now competing with Google. Like, that, it's got to blow their mind. They would never have seen that coming. Quite amazing disruption, and it really is here already. So this is happening now. We've got consumers. They value that network of, you know, they want the peer-to-peer, they want the reviews. We've got this move from owning to subscribing. We only want to pay for what we use. We don't need to own things anymore. You know, and there's a lot of talk about millennials and the next generation, but this really applies to a lot of people. And then the barriers of entry have dropped. So you don't need this massive capital outlay to be doing things now. You need a lot of smart people, which I think we all have, but the barriers are really dropping. So this is happening in that the external world. So how do we look at that internal? So I look after all the internal systems to make the company successful. So I'm continuously looking at how do we ensure that the business can actually start addressing all these issues in an innovative way. So there's three major things we're seeing, and no company is exempt. So consumerization of technology. We're all living it, breathing it. You know, we want our apps. We want, you know, that Facebook effect. The apps have to work. We want access from any device, and we want that collaboration. And this isn't just intra-company collaboration. We kind of have that worked. Generally, it's called email. Hopefully, we're getting away from that. And then really that collaboration external to other companies. How are we linking in all these other companies and working with our expanded network and making sure we're collaborating? So the way we're working is changing. We've got these new devices called an iPhone or an Android phone, right? We've got way more information now than we ever had. Does anyone here try to do zero inbox? Yeah? Try? Yeah, it's pretty crazy, right? We actually have easy sharing. We want flatter hierarchies. We want to move faster. And we're always working. We talk about work-life balance. I really think it's come to the point of work-life integration. And how do we integrate and just make all this happen? Because unfortunately, you're always on. And then when you're off, you can be off, which is great. But it really is about how do we integrate. And then we get to the IT space, and we've got this massive legacy world that we're basically caught in, and it depends on the size of the company for sure. And a lot of movement into the cloud solutions is happening. And what was really interesting, working for a vendor, so at Box, my first job in the vendor space and basically seeing the sausage factory was really interesting. And as I was talking to customers, I saw a transformation literally over 12 to 18 months where it wasn't should we do the cloud? They were coming to us saying, we have to, we need to. And it was really, the light bulb started going off. So this is happening. So 53% of employees work with 3 or more devices. Quick show of hands, who's got more than one phone or smartphone, tablet? Any more? 2? Sorry, more than 3? Yeah, all right, that's not 53%. Anyway, you'll know what I mean. So 82% use 7 or more apps. Now, apps is kind of that thing where the legacy IT world has, it's not really built for. The massive monolithic ERP systems, it's a really massive transformation for us to get to those apps. And people just want what they use from a consumer standpoint in the company. And we need to be solving that for them. And 37% work from 3 or more locations. So we are becoming very distributed and working from anywhere. So people want to work. They want to make things happen. So what do? They go and make things happen. So 57% of apps bypass security. And I mean, the finance industry, that could be really, really bad. At a startup, not so bad. It really just kind of depends. And but really what it means to me is that we have to look at this and say that, well, there's obviously things people need. So how do we help them get that and not be roadblocks? Because it really is ultimately bad for business. So with all these trends and all this happening, there's a massive divide that has occurred between IT and the business. So, we want everything to be stable, secure, and, governance, which I'd love a new word for governance if anyone's got it. And they see us coming and they're just like, we don't want to do that. They want to have ease of use. They want to be mobile. They want to be flexible. And this divide is really, really bad for business. And we've got to work through that and make it non-existent. So all great change is preceded by chaos. I really think there is a lot of chaos in the IT world today, in the business. And this is a good thing. Right? This is ultimately good because it means we're at the start of something that I think is going to be profound in how we work and how we're providing solutions. So I have to talk about security. It's a big deal. And generally, up until, well, there's a lot of companies still doing it. Security was a reason not to do something. We put up the big roadblocks and said, nope, it's not secure. That was the easy checkpoint, right, that we all checked off on. It is a big deal. Alex Samos, he's the CISO at Yahoo. And he's basically saying here, every software is eating the world. This was from Mark Andreessen, it's a famous quote. And he's saying, if we're all software companies, then we need to be careful. And he's saying we need to learn some hard InfoSec lessons. This was only in May. So I went back and did some research. I'm like, oh, okay. He's obviously seeing lots of things we're not. So, what is happening out there? Then you dig into it. And so JP Morgan, massive financial institution, right? 76 million records compromised. And we had Walmart, one of the biggest retailers. They had a lot of information stolen back in 2009. Home Depot, 60 million card numbers. What is horrifying here, it took them 5 months before they discovered that it was gone. It's just scary. And then Apple. So what was interesting about Apple is that they're saying in this statement that it wasn't system-wide breach, it's okay. But the damage it did to the company was really bad. And effectively what happened is they hacked or social engineered just some really poor passwords and just basically cracked them and got in on individual accounts. So little things like two-factor. And this is an example where this is a consumer-facing technology. It's probably okay to just have a simple password. I would have two-factor, but that's just me. It doesn't work in the enterprise, right? We have to have two-factor. So consumer technology is not good. And then Target. This is probably one of the biggest and ugliest. So $200 million to repair. The scary thing here is there was zero information security at a company of the size of Target. Now, this resulted, I think, in the CEO going, the CIO going, and who knows, however many people. Massive impact. So it really is a big issue, and it's something we have to address. Mary Meeker, she puts out this famous report every year. It's about 176 pages, PowerPoint deck. Read it if you can. It's really fascinating on all the stats. So she looked, she's basically saying 20% greater than will breaches directly from inside the company. So we've also got to protect us from ourselves. There's also, like yesterday, I think there was an announcement about Woolworths. So someone emailed a whole list of credit card numbers out to all the people on this list, the customers, credit card numbers. That's a massive security issue, right? Now, the scary thing for that is, well, why were there credit card numbers in an Excel sheet to start with? You know, people are going to make mistakes. Why are we setting them up to enable to make these mistakes? So really, with all this going on, has IT and has the business kept up? And it really does depend on industry. It does depend on the size of the company. But there's a lot we can do to help break through all these issues. So, legacy technology. I'm not a fan. This really is holding us back in a big, big way. Like I mentioned, it's not mobile friendly. You know, this is the traditional stack where you'll go to your IT department and they'll be like, yeah, let's sit down, let's do a user requirement, and we'll spend 3 months locked in a room. And, 3 months later, we'll give you a prototype, and then another 6 months, we'll do some testing, and then another 6 months, we'll release it. Business just doesn't work like that. You know, in that time, someone has created something new and beaten you. We've got to move faster. It's not outside the firewall. So, you know, we are seeing this. We've got to be working with our partners. We've gone past the days of EDI, if anyone's old enough to know what EDI is, and, you know, just this basic data exchange. We want to be collaborating with all our business partners. So, yeah, this stack is really holding us back. So where do we need to go? I should have put a DocuSign in here, but... So on the left, that's all the world that really IT was brought up on. And it was, you know, we feel very safe. And, you know, we spent millions and millions of dollars. We built all these solutions. And when I was at Red Bull, it was mid to late 2000s. And we put in a global portal for 15,000 people. It took us 18 months. And we were literally about to go live. And then the whole social aspect came in, and now everyone wanted the social stuff in this portal. And we're like, yeah, we totally agree. That'll take another 12 months. And we got to do another update. And it was just, it's when all the light bulbs went off for me, it was just really, really crazy. We could not move fast enough. So lots of different tools here where generally, actually, yeah, 100% on the right, they're SaaS-based. And what I found at Box was 100% cloud. I literally had one server because there was some legacy that happened before I got there running some AD stuff. And everything was built by the business in the cloud. And by the time I got there, I was the first CIO. it was about 8 or 9 years in. So, you know, they were a startup that was pretty old. But all these solutions were built by the business. And it was really fascinating to see how far they could get to run a company and make it all happen. The interesting part was that every business had done it in their massive silos. So finance built their things, sales built their things. You know, pretty typical. And unfortunately, that happens in, you know, normal, I'll call them regular companies. But they built all these silos, and so I was coming in helping them to, you know, pre-IPO, get it all aligned and everything. And that's where I started to see that, yes, the business can do a lot, but with the help of IT, we can actually do a lot more. And that's not by IT coming in and mandating the stuff on your right. It's really, how do we enable this? How do we integrate all these cloud solutions? How do we keep them moving fast? And you start looking at these solutions as really you know, they're the ultimate use case. So instead of spending that time where we're locked away in a room and, you know, whiteboarding stuff out and putting out our Word documents for requirements, we actually let the business go, give them a safe environment. They start actually getting real work results. And generally it's in a real silo, but they can move fast, they get the ultimate use case, and if we're partnering with them, then we can actually help them. How do we make that ready for the enterprise? It's really a fast way of rapidly moving and getting things done. The starting point for this for any organization really is looking at the low-hanging fruit. So, you know, things like email and collaboration like Box, signatures like DocuSign. Like, you don't add any value in your organization managing that. So let's get that out the door. Let someone else worry about it so you can concentrate on where you're adding value. So shadow IT. This is thrown up as, you know, this big, bad, hairy thing that you know, scares a lot of people. And I highlighted the two areas there, that 57% is time to deploy and 51% is familiarity. So our end users want speed and they want it usable. So once again, we have to internalize this to IT and say, look, we're obviously not providing what our people need. So let's not look at this as a bad thing. Let's look at this as something that we're not doing. We need to up our game. And ultimately, we have to make this work because it's bad for business if we don't. If the business is off doing their thing, IT's, I don't know, keeping the servers alive, it is actually really bad for business. We've got to join up and make this happen. So I beat up on IT, but I have to be fair. We have to look at the business as well. How do we simplify things? You know, we'll spend a lot of time looking through requirements and designing this ultimate process, and we'll call it a best practice. And, you know, then we'll go off and design it. Is it really that good? Is it really that different? And is it really adding value for us to spend the time building that solution? You know, when you're looking at SaaS solutions, you're moving from a lot of on-prem or even, and SaaS from, you know, this massive customization, let's make this work, to let's configure these tools. Someone's already worked it out. Let's configure it for our business and run. And we're seeing this condensation of time. So what used to take 18 months can now take 3. And that is just huge, you know, to be able to move forward and move quickly. But you've got to have a really good relationship between the business and IT and be acting as one and what's right for your company. All right. So let's break this down. How do we get everything as a service? And let's start stitching together all these best-of-breed applications and really start moving forward. So, Bezos. I didn't plan this. I guess I started with him, we're nearly finishing with him. But everything is a platform. So how do we stitch all this together? How do we produce APIs? And this is where I'll geek out a little bit for you. But how do we produce APIs? How do we get all these systems integrated so we're removing the silos and we're producing services for everyone to consume? And, you know, especially in very, very large organizations, you know, there are going to be lots of different ITs going on, and even IT becomes siloed. So how can we be a service within ourselves, serving our IT people, so it's ultimately servicing the company? And I think number 5 is probably the best one there. If you don't, you're fired. I guess that's one way to get something done. So I talked about security. I really do believe that the SaaS providers are a lot more secure than we are. The main reason is that their life, as a company depends on it. They spend a lot of time focusing on security. If they don't, they're not enterprise grade. You shouldn't be looking at them. So you should be going really deep with these guys. Generally, it's where the talent is. Talent is one of the biggest issues we have. Finding the right talent, especially in Silicon Valley, it's really crazy. So the SaaS providers should be, depending which ones, they're not all built the same, very, very secure. We've got to invest in our security teams. And we've got to rethink our networks. This whole notion that our network is secure is, I think, gone. And Google started this project where they're basically treating their entire campus as a Starbucks. So, they can get to it from wherever they are, and they're looking at security a very different way, which is fascinating. And monitoring and alerting. It sounds really basic, but the example with Home Depot, they knew for 5 months they had this stuff monitoring. They just didn't act on it. It's really quite amazing. All right, so the other big challenge we have is IT. So this is generally what we do when we see a change. And we spend too much time in this red area, right? So we're in denial and we go through this crisis. We have to get to acceptance as fast as we can to help the business and help people get through this and get to this new world that we have to work in. Most of my time right now with my team is spent on culture and people. And all through my journey over the last, say, 10 years, it is about working with the right people, finding the people that understand where we have to go, and getting them on board. The harsh reality is a lot of people won't make it. We're seeing maybe 30, 40% actually understand where we need to go. We don't need the traditional IT guy. We need business people. My most successful hires come from the business. I'd rather hire a business tech-savvy person than an IT person. And that's just, I think that will evolve more, and we'll help the IT people get there. We need strong partners, so they can be your SaaS vendors. They could be platform as a service vendors. That could be people like Deloitte, PwC. But if you want to move quickly, you need to work out the partner network, and you can't do it all yourself. The battle for talent is really quite fascinating. We're seeing 30% pay rises in the Valley happening for the really yearly for some of the top tech talent. It's really quite scary. But working with the right partners and will really help kickstart and accelerate. All right, so disruption. It's here. It's probably one of the biggest misused words I'm seeing right now, but there is a massive transformation going on. And the legacy technology is holding us back. We have to move from that as fast as we can. Big companies are going to be in this two different worlds for a long time. You can't just forklift and replace. However, we've got to start that journey. Security is paramount. We've got to work with the people. And, like I said, a lot of people won't be able to make it. Maybe they're better off in a data center and working for one of the partners and not working with you guys. Partners are critical, and let's embrace this because it is happening. And if we don't embrace this change, then it's going to be rest in peace. Thanks, everyone.